So, Rabbi, why? Explain to the American people and to everybody else in the world,
right?
Exactly the arguments against Zionism.
Well, with the help of the Almighty, that Almighty should bestow upon me His wisdom, that I may be worthy of conveying this message. Basically, Judaism is a belief. It is a religion. It is a covenant that Jewish people made with the Almighty. It is a spirituality. It is that we are subservient to God. And Zionism is a rebellion against that, a contradiction to all of that. It is a transformation from this subservience to God into a base materialist concept. It's a materialism. It is to have a land, a piece of land, nothing to do with this concept of spirituality, of being close to God. It's furthering oneself from God. The Zionists have taken the Judaism, the shell of Judaism, so to say, and they have used it as a facade for a crime, a base crime. Rebelling against God in every facet that's possible. One is not allowed to kill or steal. The Torah forbids it. And yet, Zionism is predicated and built.
Tear down the settlements. Tear down the settlements. Tear down the settlements. Tear down the settlements.
You may need to do this interview later, man.
I can catch up to that. What would you say to
in its essence, like I say, it's a transformation from religion into materialism, into, they call it democracy, call it what you'd like, but it is not this spirituality, this subservience to God, accepting the covenant of God. That's in its essence what it's all about. And to accomplish this goal of materialism, of having a piece of land, what they call this let's call it this ersatz Judaism, this new Judaism, they are stealing, killing, oppressing a people, everything that the Torah forbids us, of everything what in total contradiction to what it means to be godly, to obey God. We have to be compassionate. One must emulate God, and stealing and killing is not emulating God. At the same time, ironically, even if it would have not taken the land away from the Palestinian people, it would be forbidden for us as a Jewish people. Since the destruction of the temple 2,000 years ago, we were told by God, we were expressly commanded by God that we are not to have 1 inch of Jewish sovereignty, whether it be in Palestine, in the Holy Land, or any part of the world. And we as Jews, for 2,000 years, through all our trials and tribulations, wherever we were in the 4 corners of the earth, we never turned around and tried to create our own Jewish homeland, because we knew that this is expressly forbidden by the Torah. We are to accept this banishment by God, the concept of being sent into the diaspora since the destruction of the temple, and every Jew waits the time and yearns when God will end exile, meaning that all humanity will recognize the one God, and we will all serve him in harmony. Till that day comes, and this is already 2,000 years, we know that we should not make 1 inch of Jewish sovereignty, and if we do that, we are rebelling against God, and we are causing the wrath of God to be, God forbid, upon us. Secondly, so that's one issue, that we're not allowed to have a land, that we're not allowed to rebel against God, we're making a state. Secondly, we're not allowed to rebel against any nation. That is also part of the oaths. Exile came with oaths. God put the Jewish people on the 3 oaths, not to try to recreate the Jewish sovereignty, not to rebel against any nation. We have to be loyal citizens in every country we're residing. And thirdly, not to attempt to leave exile. So all the things that Zionism does by creating the state, in every facet of Zionism, it is directly rebelling against God and ignoring what the Torah demands of us. That is why religious Jews, whether they're from Jerusalem, they're from New York, they're from Australia, England, wherever you will find them, invariably, the more the Jewish the community, the more anti-Zionist they are. Contrary to what the world thinks, that the Jewish people, the more religious, the more pro-Zionist. On the contrary, if you look what's doing over here in this APAC conference, you'll see that it is almost entirely non-religious, and you will definitely not find people as us. But if you will go to New York, to Williamsburg, right across from Manhattan, or you'll go to Jerusalem, if you'll go to any part of the world where there's a very religious community, you will find the more religious, the more anti-Zionist. It cannot go together. Zionism and Judaism are two diametric opposites. Never will they join. And therefore we pray every day for the speedy and total dismantlement of this rebellion against God called the State of Israel. We pray to God that it should happen peacefully without any further bloodshed. Our hearts cry for the suffering of the Palestinian people that is being done in our name. It is a double tragedy. They've been murdered. Their houses have been stolen. Their self-respect has been taken from them. Everything has been taken from them. And unfortunately, it is done in the name of Jews, in our name, in the name of our religion. And therefore, for us, it is a double nakba, what they call nakba, a tragedy in Arabic. It is a double crime to us. We are humiliated. We are just horrified that this is being done in our name. We cry. We've gone to Gaza. We go to Arab lands. We speak to the leaders, and they know, and they remember how Jews lived together with them so many hundreds of years in peace. And that is another issue. You know that Jewish people are required by God to show their thankfulness for good that has been done to them. That is part of being a Jew. And we have been living in Arab and Muslim countries for thousands of years, for hundreds of years, since, but the Arab countries and Muslim countries in Iran before it was Muslim, but we've been living amongst these people for thousands of years, and we are required to show our thankfulness and a gratitude for what has been done for us. We were living there without any human rights groups to protect us, and we were not massacred. We live there, but we will wait for the day to be able to show our gratitude for all that has been done for us all these hundreds of years. And instead of accusing these people of being anti-Semitic, these deplorable, just despicable attacks on the Arab and Muslim people that are being vilified, while when they were the people who provided for us a safe haven in our home for these hundreds of years prior to this concept of Zionism. But through every trial and tribulation, when there was the Crusades, when there was the Inquisition, where did Jews go? And by World War II, Jews went to Arab Muslim countries and they were accepted.
What would you say to individuals that cry, never again, and use, the Nazi, fascist mentality of killing, off our people, to claim that we have a right to a homeland, and B, that we have to kick everybody or anybody out that may be against us or not against us, but it's perceived against us.
Well, what Zionism does, we accuse Zionism of being evil, but we don't accuse them of not being shrewd or not being adept at what they're trying to do. By using panic, fear-mongering, by using guilt, the guilt ride, in other words, they turn around to the world and they say never again. Our parents, our grandparents died in Auschwitz. We have people here, rabbis who were hidden in my father-in-law was in Auschwitz, he's still alive. My grandparents were killed in Auschwitz. I have the majority of my family was killed in Auschwitz. All of us,
my grandparents, and my grandparents came over here on one of the boats that were burned away.
Right.
And my grandparents, pushed their children into the water to get them so they could swim to safety.
Right.
And were returned themselves and died.
Right. So the concept of we understand what it's in our blood, the suffering of Jewish people, obviously, but yet to use that suffering and then to claim that therefore the Palestinian people have to give up their land is ludicrous and despicable and nothing to do with the truth. And the Torah is truth. They aren't the ones who stole the land from us. This happened in Europe. They have no right, because Jews suffered in Europe, to go and take the land from the Palestinian people. What they're doing is they're intimidating. They're using different issues in order to use, like I say, guilt, that the world was silent at our suffering, and therefore give us the homeland. What do you mean? Step back and say, wait. What do you mean give that land? That land was the Palestinian people. And if you're going to point at the Torah and say God gave it to us, then we'll point at the Torah and say go to any scholarly, real Talmudic school, any Jewish community, and ask them if you have the right, according to the Torah, to take it. You have no right to take it. And to claim that it belongs to us because the Nazis killed us, all these claims are really, if you step back and you think about it, you'll see it's born out of intimidation, out of confusing people, out of taking their thought process away from them. So the never again is not a Jewish, the words never again is also rooted in blasphemy. Because what do you mean never again? We pray to God that it should never happen again. But you with your Uzi is not the one who's going to protect us. It's the Almighty who protects us. And on the contrary, by taking that Uzi and rebelling against God, stealing the land and killing the people, on the contrary, the Torah says if you rebel against God, that will bring, God forbid, for catastrophic results. So that's how ironic and sad this is, that by their claiming never again, all they're doing is, God forbid, bringing another tragedy to the Jewish people. And logically also, Jewish people have been living in this third of the world, in the Middle East, in the Arab and Muslim countries, and in Europe. And we've had the concept of anti-Semitism in Europe. But what they're doing is exacerbating anti-Semitism in Europe and creating anti-Semitism where there wasn't, because of their state. So it's just logic. It's a simple logic that by going amongst people, taking their homes away, and presenting yourself as inhumane to the world, you're exacerbating anti-Semitism. That, and then you say never again. Stop and desist what you're doing, and let the Jewish people shine as a people of God, of peace, like we were taught in the Torah, and then we can hope that it will never happen again.